the UN is ready for a fight.
We are absolutely determined to do everything to block any advance on Goma and any other city as well.
On Thursday, UN helicopter gunships joined Congolese choppers in action on Rutshuri, north of Goma. This is the first time UN forces and the Congolese army have fought together since the mutiny in April.
The Congolese army is reconditioning the troops and redeploying so they can recapture the lost territory.
The rebels are calling the deployment provocation, and they warn of the consequences. Tensions are high, and the conflict is far from resolved. Diplomats from the Great Lakes region meeting in Addis Ababa Thursday called on the rebels in eastern Congo to cease hostilities.
Authorities in Ivory Coast have started the destruction of light weapons recently recovered from fighters after the post-election violence. Over 600 light weapons, including Kalashnikovs, pistols and small arms, are expected to be destroyed in the coming days. Despite the step, many are worried about the proliferation of small arms in the country. Let's look at this report for more on that.
In a few minutes, all that will be left of this will be scraps of metal. 650 light weapons were destroyed on Thursday in Abidjan. Guns, Kalashnikovs and pistols were voluntarily handed over by the former fighters of the post-electoral crisis. The ceremony was filmed in order to spread a message.
Weapons pose a threat all over the country, and that's why we're carrying out their destruction.
More than 1,800 weapons have already been gathered. Many were buried away for months. Some are unregistered, and it's basically unclear where they're from. Some have even been stolen from various police stations. Those ones will be kept in safe places.
We're waiting for our management, our authorities, to tell us what to do in accordance with ONUC. Should we destroy them? We're waiting. In any case, they are safe. As you can see, they're not just given to anyone.
But just how many weapons are still circulating? No one knows for sure. Their destruction is mainly symbolic, and Côte d'Ivoire wants to show the world it's turned a new leaf.
While the death toll in Nigeria's fuel tanker explosion near the eastern city of Port Harcourt continues to rise by the hour. Villagers were scavenging fuel from a tank that crashed on Thursday when it caught fire and exploded, burning many to death. CNN has details in this report.
Early morning on a road in Nigeria's Niger Delta region, fuel from a disabled tanker catches fire as villagers are trying to scoop up the spilled petrol with buckets and containers. When the blaze is finally put out, 95 men, women, and children are dead, while 18 are taken to the hospital. The driver of the truck had swerved to avoid another vehicle, but ended up in a ditch. He warned people not to approach the spill. But in a country where most people live on less than $2 a day, precious fuel on the side of the road was just too tempting for many to stay away. Nigeria is the world's 8th largest exporter of crude oil and sends 40% of its exports to the United States. But it doesn't refine that oil, and so it has to import fuel. For years, Nigerians enjoyed cheap fuel because the government kept prices artificially low. But in January, President Goodluck Jonathan did away with those subsidies, and angry Nigerians took to the streets in protest, forcing the president to partially reinstate them. Many Nigerians feel the only benefit they have to living in a country with such massive oil reserves is the access they have to cheap fuel. But prices have risen this year, and when some saw an opportunity for some free fuel, they took it. Late Thursday, President Jonathan released a statement vowing to offer relief to the families of those killed and saying he was, quote, deeply saddened by the loss of many lives. Lives that came to an end for a few buckets of fuel. Vladimir Duthier, CNN, Uyo, Nigeria.
Well, time now to take another break. When we come back, we'll take a look at sports. Allah, Allah.
It's traditional that your national GSM provider, Gamcell, takes many of its valuable customers to Mecca each year. This year again, Gamcell will offer 10 more of its valuable customers a complete Hajj package in a draw to be held live on GRTS television. Yes, your Hajj is possible by simply loading $50 in scratch card or Nopal. You can win not only a return ticket to Mecca, but also $1,000 travel allowance, food and accommodation in Medina and Mecca. Remember, the more you load $50 scratch card or Nopal, the more you increase your winning chance. With Gamcell, your Hajj is now easier. Gamcell, yay barom.
Welcome back. After 5 days of intense deliberations by the prosecution and the defense team of former England captain John Terry, the London Westminster Magistrate Court today acquitted Chelsea's keeper of all charges. Terry was standing trial for alleged racial abuse of fellow footballer and QPR defender Etienne Ferdinand. CNN's Matthew Chance has more on that story.
They call it the beautiful game, but it was soccer's ugly underbelly. John Terry's racism trial laid bare. He's one of the world's most high-profile players, a former England captain, skipper of European champions Chelsea. But an abusive exchange on the pitch last year brought the entire sport into disrepute. TV cameras caught Terry mouthing the word black to opposing player Anton Ferdinand, along with strong sexual swear words. A few days later, he was interviewed by the English Football Association. We've bleeped out the offensive language, but you'll get the idea.
Yeah, I just heard sort of calling me a black that.
Right, calling me a black.
You know, I understand that I was quite taken aback by that because, as I said, I've not been ever accused of anything like that, and you know, I didn't take it lightly at all.
Can you remember exactly what you said back to him?
I think it was something along the lines of, "You black, you're a bed."
Industrial language like this is, says Terry, part and parcel of the game. Moments before this, the court heard Ferdinand had provoked Terry, referring to his alleged extramarital affair with another teammate's girlfriend. Critics say it's all sordid, unacceptable abuse, but the addition of race made this a matter for the courts. The defence called witnesses like Ashley Cole, Terry's Chelsea and England teammate, to speak on his behalf. As a captain, he is one of the best, he said, inspirational, calm and collected. The court was read character witness statements from a further 18 Chelsea teammates, past and present, plus one from Jose Mourinho, former Chelsea manager, now with Real Madrid. I have never witnessed racist behaviour from him, the statement said. I am certain John Terry is not a racist. But this ugly episode is about more than individual reputations, raising questions about how the beautiful game is being played.
Well, before we go, reminder of our headlines. Senior government officials and representatives of donor agencies recently gathered to devise means of mobilizing resources for the program for accelerated growth and employment. The International Monetary Fund has approved a 3-year credit arrangement for the Gambia. United Nations troops and Congolese forces have taken to the air to thwart the rapid advance of M23 rebels on the strategic town of Goma. And Ivorian authorities have commenced the destruction of light arms surrendered by former combatants in a bid to further entrench the newfound peace. You can also follow that story and other GRTS programs live on www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor GRTS radio live. That's all in the news. Thank you very much for your time. Inshallah, we'll be back at 2200 hours with more news.